Hello, fellow travelers. I'm Nomad Jim, a retired minimalist solo full-time slow traveler. Thanks for stopping by. If you're going to be traveling for any period of time, you're going to need to decide what type of accommodations you're going to use. And there are a lot of options available to you. So today in this video, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of the different types of accommodations, so you can decide for yourself what works best for you in the way that you like to travel. This is video number 7 in a series of videos that I'm doing covering 10 key things that you need to address before you start your part-time or full-time slow travel journey. And this also applies to anyone traveling for any period of time. So let's get started. Let's start with hotels. And these can range from hostels all the way up to a 5-star resort. So some of the pros about staying in a hotel are that you have a secure environment. Also, you're going to have housekeeping. So you have somebody coming in to clean on a daily basis or every few days. Also, you may get breakfast included with the cost of your room. And there's probably going to be somebody at the front desk. So you'd have somebody there that you could ask questions of to get recommendations for restaurants or information about places to visit or ways to get around the city. So all of those are really great pros to staying in a hotel. But there are also some cons to staying in a hotel. One is you don't have a lot of privacy. You're going to occasionally get those intrusions when housekeeping comes to clean the room, and you never know when that's going to be. Also, in a hotel, most of the people that are staying there are just there for a short period of time, because they're on vacation. And you, as a slow traveler, are probably going to be staying for a longer period of time. So you're going to be surrounded with a lot of people traveling in a different way than you travel. Also, if you're somebody who likes to make your own meals or eat in a more healthy way, then chances are in a hotel, you're not going to have a kitchen that you can use to then make meals for yourself. So that can be a problem as well. I generally only stay in hotels if I'm going to be in a place for just a few nights. If I'm going there more like a tourist, because I know that I just want to see some of the sights and I don't really want to stay there for a long period of time, then staying in a hotel works really well for me. And generally, I use the website booking.com for making my hotel reservations. It's worked really well for me, so I prefer to use that one. There are a whole bunch of other ones that are out there. Agoda is another one that I've used a few times, and that's worked well too. But there are a lot of different websites that you can use for hotel reservations. Just that booking.com has worked really well for me, and I prefer to use that one. Now, another accommodation that you can use is apartments. And the pros with that, one of the big pros right off the bat, is it's more private. You're not going to have intrusions of people coming into your apartment unless you want that. And there are cases where I've been offered to have housekeeping come in on a weekly basis or every 2 weeks or something like that. And I have taken them up on that. And that works out well because you know when they're going to be coming, so you can schedule around that. So it's not a big deal. But you have a lot more privacy when you're in an apartment compared to being in a hotel. Also, you'll feel like you're living amongst the locals. If you're in an apartment building, chances are you're going to be surrounded by a lot of people who live there full time. And you're probably going to be in a neighborhood that's a more local kind of a neighborhood, maybe away from the tourist area. So it has a different feel, and it's a nice feel, especially if you're going to be in a place for a longer period of time. And another pro with staying in an apartment is that you're likely to get a discount for staying for a longer period of time. If you're doing this on, say, Airbnb, then they will oftentimes give you a discount for a longer stay. So even for a week, sometimes you get a weekly discount. But definitely if you're staying for a month, you're staying for 4 weeks, the rate will drop down. And so you'll get a discount for staying for a longer period of time. So that's another pro to staying in an apartment. But there are some cons to staying in an apartment. And one is inconsistency. You never really know what you're going to get. You can see the pictures online and read the description, but you never really know until you're there what the place really is like. So it's incumbent upon you to read very closely the reviews, read what people are saying, also pay attention to what they're not saying, and use that information to help you to decide whether that's a place that you want to stay in. Now, for me personally, I like to read the reviews very closely and look for things that people keep saying over and over again. If you see a certain negative thing that keeps getting repeated by a number of different people, then you can feel pretty sure that that is a major problem at this place. And sometimes there are things that people bring up as a negative that I look at as a positive. So there was one place that I was looking at and it had a few negative reviews. So I said, well, let me see what that negative that they're talking about. What are they not liking about this place? So I read those reviews and each one of them had the same negative about the place. And that was that the mattress on the bed was hard. It was a firm mattress and they didn't like that. And so there were several different reviews and that was the only thing that they didn't like about the place. Now for me, that's a positive. I like a firm mattress. So when I looked at that, I said, sounds like my kind of place. So I reserved it and sure enough, it turned out to be a really great place to stay. And another thing with apartments that's a pro is that you're more than likely going to have a kitchen. So if you are somebody who likes to make your own meals, to eat in a more healthy way, to save some money, then you're going to have the opportunity to do that if you'd like to do that as well. Another con that people are bringing up a lot lately with staying in apartments is that the fees are starting to go up. So especially with platforms like Airbnb, they are adding additional fees or hiking up the fees more than what they used to be. So that is a problem as well. And I've noticed a lot lately on YouTube, a lot of people complaining about Airbnb, saying that they've had enough of it, they're not going to use it anymore, they've had bad experiences. And I've heard of people who have had a lot of bad experiences with either the place they stayed in or with the owner that they're dealing with of the place. So these are real issues and people have had major problems with some of these apartments that they stayed in. For me personally, I've not ever had those kind of problems. The places that I've stayed in, I've enjoyed them. There's been little minor issues here and there, but nothing major. So I've been very happy with Airbnb, and that's my preferred way to stay when I'm traveling. I like having an apartment. I like having the privacy. I like all of the good things about the apartment experience. So I prefer to use Airbnb, and I usually will use it. Also, I've occasionally started using booking.com for reserving apartments as well, because they do have apartments on there. And sometimes they'll have apartments that aren't on the Airbnb platform, but they are on booking.com. So it's another place to look, not only for hotels, but also for apartments. Another way to get an apartment is to go to a local rental agency. And there are some people who travel in this way. They'll get an Airbnb apartment for a few nights, and then for those first few days that they are in their new location, they'll go to rental agencies and look for an apartment there that they'll be able to stay in for the rest of the time that they're there, whether it's 1, 2, 3 months at a time. So they'll go and sign a lease, and they're guaranteed that they're going to get a lot cheaper price than they would get in a hotel or even in an Airbnb apartment. So that's one big pro to doing it that way. You're going to get a cheaper place to stay in. And you're also going to be in a local neighborhood, in a local building. So you're also going to have that type of experience as well, being amongst the locals. But there are some cons to using a local rental agency. One being you're not familiar with the people that you're working with. So you don't know whether they're going to take advantage of you. Maybe they'll steer you into something that's not really what you're wanting. So just something to pay attention to. And also, there may be some responsibilities that you wouldn't normally have with an Airbnb apartment. So you may be responsible for utilities. You may have to pay for electricity and water, maybe even for Wi-Fi. So these are things that you need to pay attention to, read the fine print when you're looking at the lease, and make sure that you understand what you're getting into before you sign the lease. Another type of accommodation is to do house sitting. And when you do that, you're staying in someone's house, and generally you're going to be taking care of a pet while the owner is away. So you have an opportunity to stay in this house. You're taking care of a pet, so the pet's there to keep you company. And you're going to probably be in a local area as well. So there's a lot of pros to doing house sitting. But there are some cons to doing house sitting. One being that the pet kind of decides what you're going to be doing. So it really does impact your freedom. The pet is your responsibility. And so it comes first before anything else that you may want to do. So if you're thinking about wanting to take a day trip outside the city, let's say, to explore around, but you know it's going to be all day long that you'll be gone. Well, you may not be able to do that because the owner may have said, don't leave the dog alone for more than 6 hours. So you're restricted on what you can do. So that can be a problem for your freedom of being able to enjoy this place that you're staying in. I personally have never done a house sitting, but I do know that people do this as a way to cut their costs. Obviously, it's a great way to stay in a place and not have to pay for it. So if you're willing to take on that responsibility, this could be a great option for you. One of the best websites to go to for house sitting is trustedhousesitters.com. So I'll leave a link for that down in the description, as well as the links for all of these other different websites that I've been talking about. Another type of accommodation that you could use is to go on a cruise. When you do that, some of the advantages are you only have to unpack once. So you get to visit lots of different locations, but you don't have to pack and unpack your suitcase. You just do it one time and you get to enjoy all these different places. Also, the meals are going to be included. So that's a plus as well. And like I said, you're going to get to visit a lot of different places and enjoy a lot of different places and do different excursions at these different places if you'd like to do that as well. But of course, there are some cons with doing a cruise. And one of those being that you have a limited amount of time in each of the ports that you stop in. Generally, you're going to pull into the port around 8 in the morning, and by 5 in the afternoon, you need to be back on the ship so that you can take off for the next destination the next day. So it doesn't give you a lot of time to really enjoy the place that you're visiting. Also, you and all of the other people on the ship, the 1,000+ people who may be getting off the ship, as well as any other cruise ships that may be at that port on the same day as you, you're all going to get off the ship at one time. It's going to be this mad crush of people throughout the city, and that may not be the most enjoyable experience. So that's a negative as well. Personally, I'm not really a cruise person, so it's not something that I've really done. And the main reason why I don't is because I like to spend time in a place that I visit. I don't feel like I'd be satisfied to just spend 8 hours in a place and then have to get back on the ship and go to the next place. I like to stay there for a few days at least to kind of enjoy the place more fully. So for me, cruising is not my type of thing, but it may be for you. And I do know that there are a lot of slow travelers who do repositioning cruises. And repositioning cruises are ones where it's a change in the seasons. So the ships are going from one region of the world to a different region. So say they're going from the Caribbean to the Mediterranean or something like that. And so they need to sail the ship from one region to the other. And it goes places that the cruise would not normally go to. So it gives you an opportunity to see some things, some places that you wouldn't normally get to see on a cruise. So that's an advantage of that. And also there's less people on a repositioning cruise, so it's a little less crowded, and it's going to be cheaper as well than your normal type of cruise. So that's an option as well that's available to you if you like to do cruises and you'd like to go from one region of the world to another region of the world in a slow pace, but also in a cheaper way. So how do you decide what accommodations you use when you travel? Leave your comments down below. In the next video in this series, we're going to be talking about how to decide where you travel to. So stay tuned for that one. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, let's get out there and travel.